Okay, welcome. Oh, sorry. There's a weird echo from me. Welcome everyone to the board meeting for HWMA, May 11th, 2023. And we will begin with a roll call vote. Director Matthews.
Here.
Director Jones.
Here.
Director Castellano is here. Director Katie. Director Madrone is absent, and Director Wilson. Welcome, everyone. And with that, we will move to item number 2, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the HWMA and will be enacted upon by one motion, unless a specific request for review is made by a board member or a member of the public. The consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless pulled from discussion. We do have one item that has been pulled, and that's item 2B. So we'll speak to that after approving the consent calendar.
Which one's pulled?
2B.
Okay.
Would anyone like to make a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to accept item A and C of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by Director Matthews and seconded by Director Jones. Any other discussion on this item?
And congratulations. We're happy that you are permanently on board. Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you for many, many years.
Me as well. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, we're very excited. Let's see. I guess we'll go ahead and do a voice vote. Director Matthews.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Yes.
Director Katie.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Castellano votes yes, with Director Wilson absent. Motion carries. And with that, we will move on to item 2B. And I'll turn it over to you, Director Matthew, or
Thank you,
Director
Chair.
Keller.
So there's just one small revision to the fourth whereas section of the amendment. It should read a 1-year extension to be consistent with the rest of the document. It has a 3-year in there currently. That's an artifact from an old staff report and document. So staff recommends approving item 2B with staff's recommended revisions.
Thank you. Any other, and just to read the name of that one, and that is 2B, approve amendment number 2 with B&B Portable Toilets LLC for leachate hauling from Cummings Road landfill.
And just for clarification, is that the first, let's see, I guess it's the fourth whereas to extend the agreement terms for 3 years, that should instead say 1 year. Is that the correction?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I move to accept item B with staff recommendations.
I second.
Okay, Director Matthews making the motion and Director Wilson seconding it. Any further discussion on this item? Do any members of the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Katie.
Yes.
Director Matthews. Yes. Director Jones.
Yes.
Director Castellano votes yes, with Director Madrone absent. And great. Just going to keep rolling to item 3, oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the board to submit written communications concerning matters not on this agenda. Board members may respond to statements, but any request that requires board action will be referred to staff for review. Reasonable time limits may be imposed on both the total amount of time allocated for this item and on the time permitted to each individual speaker. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. Do any members of the public wish to make comment at this time? Okay, seeing none in chambers, are there any members on Zoom who wish to make comment at this time? If so, go ahead and raise your hands virtually or on your screen. Okay. Seeing none, we will close oral and written communications and move on to item number 4, Approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget and adopt resolution 2024-01 for the collection of integrated waste management fees.
Thank you, Chair. So the Executive Advisory Committee met on May 4th to review and discuss the draft budget. Their recommendations and comments are as follows. The committee had concerns with the proposed increase to salaries across the board in light of other fee increases, but understands the need to retain staff and incentivize new hires with the upcoming expansion of services. In addition to that concern, they recommended against tying HWMA's cost of living adjustment to the CPI and suggests working with member agency staff in the coming year to develop a better methodology before next fiscal year. The EAC appreciated the proposed increase to the Illegal Disposal and Cleanup Fund and agreed that it is much needed, but recommended HWMA overhaul the program to ensure all member agencies can avail themselves of the fund and to better define the projects that are eligible for the funding itself. Additionally, they would like HWMA to make member agencies more aware of the current funding levels throughout the year. Finally, they would like HWMA staff to work with the Technical Advisory Committee to better define the new reserve fund and its intended purposes. Overall, there are minimal changes from the draft budget as presented in April. The capital improvement plan, general assumptions, and methodologies remain unchanged. There are slight changes to the revenues, expenditures, waste management fees, and authority reserves. Mostly these changes all revolve around the additional dollar placed onto the HWMA base fee that was directed by this board in April. Everything else inside the document when compared to the draft budget remains unchanged. So again, the only change to the projected revenue when compared to the draft budget is the addition of the $75,000 in revenue in the HWMA base fees. This can be seen on line 46 of the final budget. The total projected revenue for authority in fiscal year 23-24 is $14,200,370. And again, the only change to the projected expenditures from the draft budget is the addition of $75,000 in reserve funding as directed by this board. As of right now, we've titled this long-term funding, but as the Executive Advisory Committee recommended, HWMA staff will go back and work with the Technical Advisory Committee to develop not only a better naming structure, but what they would like to see those funds retained and potentially used for in the future, or it's the purpose of that reserve fund. The addition can be seen in the total expected expenditures and individually on line 105. With the addition of the long-term funding reserve, there has been slight changes to the waste management fee. Self-haul rates will be increased to $187.17 a ton. This represents an increase of $23.56 per ton, or just under 15% increase. Franchise rates will be increased to $170.41 a ton, which is an increase of $34.95 per ton, or 25%. As mentioned previously, satellite facilities in prior years were blended together and applied evenly over the two sites. Staff has developed individual rates for each location that better reflect the actual cost for those sites. Recology Eel River rates will be increased to $134.44 per ton, which is an increase of $31.94, or 30%. Humboldt Sanitation's rates will increase to $125.76 per ton, an increase of $22.26, or 21%. And finally, the recyclable materials processing fee will increase to $110.97 per ton, which is an increase of $39.97 per ton, or 36% increase. It should be noted that HWMA is no longer offsetting the cost of residuals, so this is the total cost per ton related to the recyclable contract. As just a brief and quick overview of the solid waste portion of the waste management fee, it's made up of three main components. The countywide program fee, which houses pass-throughs and other county-related programs. Examples are the current HHW facility and the Rural Container Disposal Program. HWMA base fee is responsible for funding all other programs or divisions at the authority. Over the last several years, there's been a slow transition to reduce the amount of subsidies the solid waste division gives to other divisions and make this fee accurately reflect the true costs of these divisions. For 2023-24, these fees will now fully fund the individual divisions and programs that they represent. Additionally, the board will note this includes a line for the long-term funding. This is the additional dollar per ton that this board directed be added to the tip fee at the April special meeting. As recommended by the Executive Advisory Committee, obviously staff will take any recommendations from the TAC, and we will bring back to this board recommendations for a naming structure and a potential definition and use for this reserve fund. The facility fee houses the cost for transportation and disposal of solid waste to Dry Creek Landfill, the direct operational costs of handling the waste, indirect expenses, and necessary reserve funding requirements. The only change to the reserve from the draft budget is the addition of the long-term funding reserve in the amount of $75,000. This brings the total authority reserves for this year to $3,174,835. As a reminder, the HWMA organization chart as presented in the final budget will unfreeze the analyst position that has remained frozen since 2019. Staff will bring back an updated job description that encompasses more focus on education and outreach, website management, and graphic design to the board before recruitment of this position is initiated. The final budget also includes maintaining the freeze of 2 MDT positions until the organics facility is open and we can assess the operations within. Finally, staff recommends the board approve fiscal year 23-24 budget and adopt resolution 2024-01 for the collection of integrated waste management fees.
Thank you. Do any board members have questions?
Yeah. So I think that I would like a little bit more clarity about this 903 account. That's, and I think that from what I understand, it's kind of like a free-for-all, right? So I think that moving forward, I'd like to see a little bit more structure in how that's used, maybe divide an amount per member, you know, so one entity doesn't like make a run on it. I'd also love to see some of that maybe be used for like needle kiosks. I think that might be a really good use for that, but just some structure around how, you know, we roll that out. And so it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Predominantly in the past, it's been a first come, first serve.
Yeah.
And it's predominantly been used by the jurisdictions of Arcata, Eureka, and the county. They have used the lion's share for really as long as we've had the 901 funding, outside of some specialized cleanups that we've worked with other rural jurisdictions. In the past, we have utilized the funding for sharps disposal. We've also used it for purchasing of sharps containers as well. We've rolled that back because the use from our member agencies to actually use it for illegal disposal and cleanup has continued to rise in the last couple of years. But the Executive Advisory Committee and obviously HWMA staff as well, we understand that it needs to be better structured, and HWMA needs to do a little bit better job of working with our member agencies so they understand not only are the funds available to them, but how much funding is available in that illegal dumping and disposal fee and fund throughout the year, not just at the start and not just when we run out of it.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to my next question, which is that extra dollar that we're adding. I think that a really good use for that would to build in some kind of like team liaison within the technical advisory committee and the executive director, the executive committee. So there's a lot more, communication and education among all our jurisdictions. I think that might be a really good use for that fund.
Just for clarification, are you meaning funding a position with that funding, or?
I don't know exactly, but just some way to, make sure that the jurisdictions really know what's going on kind of all the time. So I think that, our representatives sometimes feel like they're not they don't have super all the information that they need before when they go to like the city managers or when they come to the council. Like I know, for example, all of this is going to be like the franchise fees and everything that's going to be on our agenda next week. And so I think, having the person that reports out to us being able to feel like they, have the whole story and further on down the line. So I think that maybe using some of that money for something like that would be really useful.
To speak candidly, I think HWMA staff needs to do a better job moving forward in communicating with our member agencies, and vice versa. When our member agencies have questions about solid waste, bringing HWMA to the table or the city council and having them speak. I know, at least for myself, I would be more than happy to always be available. But in general, I think I myself and HWMA staff, we need to do a little bit better job of ensuring we keep our member agency staff in the loop. And at times that can be difficult just because of the different amount of contacts that we have within member agencies. But that's definitely something that we're aware of and we want to work towards fixing in the future to make sure everyone has the information they need in regards to HWMA's operations, the costs, everything like that.
Sure, and I mean, maybe some of that is on us too, but yeah, any way that we can assist you kind of close that loop, I'm happy to do that.
Any other questions from members of the board? And then we'll open it to public comment and come back for comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi.
Dr. Jones.
I know that in the city of Blue Lake, which I represent, we contract with the Blue Lake Garbage Company. And on page 39, I saw the allocation of the $7,000 and then the quarterly payment. And my question is that are these costs directly billed to this Blue Lake City Garbage Company?
So what you're referring to is the AB 939 pass-through fees, I believe.
Yeah. It's on page
So
39.
HWMA collects that on behalf of our member agencies on our tip fee, and then we pass those fees through to our member agencies. So you see certain jurisdictions like the city of Eureka, Rio Dell, and the county of Humboldt, we retain some of that. That's because we contract with those jurisdictions to do AB 939 activities. So AB 939 is the original Waste Reduction Act. So that funding is for your jurisdiction to do AB 939 activities. So that's just charged onto our tip fee, and then it's passed directly to the member agencies unless we have a contract to withhold that for work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess that does, because that's why it doesn't reflect any retained money by you.
Correct.
When it pertains to Blue Lake and Arcata and Ferndale, it looks like, are the only three that must have separate garbage companies.
No, so the retained amount is retained by HWMA, and that is because we hold contracts with those three jurisdictions to do AB 939 work. One of the biggest ones is called the EAR, the annual report. So that is a report that each jurisdiction has to give to CalRecycle that encompasses all solid waste and recycling activity that happens over the year. So for Rio Dell, Eureka, and the county, we complete those annual reports, and we submit them on behalf. We do some other activities as well, education and outreach, things of that nature in our contract. It differs by each jurisdiction, but we don't retain any from Blue Lake because we don't contract with you for those services. Blue Lake staff does their AB 939 activities on their own.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Yeah, I have one small question. I know Trinidad and Fortuna are not yet members, but are in the process of considering membership. Was there any outreach, to staff in Trinidad or Fortuna, just to kind of, touch base with them about this process and where we're at?
Regarding the waste management fee?
Yeah, just in general regarding the budget for the upcoming year and
So
kind of
we
where
have
they're
reached out several times, and we've had quite a few conversations with Trinidad and Fortuna about coming on as member agencies, the process that they would have to go through, and some questions. We've answered some questions that they have as well. But no, we did not consult either of our non-member agency jurisdictions in the preparation of our budget.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
I just want to say that I am really looking forward to seeing some social media and outreach and all of that. Every time, like, I go to board meetings or I talk to my city manager about, waste and what this is going to trickle down to, my constituents, it just, it hammers home all the waste that we make, and, just information about that can be passed on, about how, it's going, backhaul has dropped off, all that stuff. So it's just the education component. I'm just really looking forward to seeing. So, because it's always hard when things go up, but having people know, like, the reason behind is always a really important piece.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it up to public comment. Any members here on Chambers? I see Director Wise coming up.
Yes,
Hello.
Linda Wise. I'm the general manager of Recology. I'm not going to call Humboldt County Eel River. It's just too much to say. And I'm also a resident of Eureka. And I do want to reiterate what I said in the last meeting is just the importance in all of our lives is to looking for opportunities to make efficient hauls in and out of the county. And it really isn't a good network to really make that happen. And I wanted to point out is that the 15% of the backhaul that's still existing with your rates, it originates from Recology bringing recycling back into Humboldt County to process from Del Norte County and from the state of Oregon to bring that here. So that's what's making that last 15% to make more efficiency of the backhauls here. Also, your rates, it would have been a lot worse, but that was super intentional when this happened. It was because we could have looked to take some materials, get some materials from the other side, down on 299. But what we really were looking for is to find intentionally look for a backhaul opportunity. When you're taking garbage, bring something back that has value for the world, So, and it did end up being able to help some, but we didn't see ourselves as being the sole backhaul, but it's the way it turned out. So it's just in your other lives, as I said, transportation is something that I think that we need to look at as a whole about bringing things in and out of the county. The other thing that I want to say is to mirror what Meredith Matthews said is that, again, with education and outreach is something that's missing because one of the reasons why some of the rates, particularly in the recycling processing, are so high is because the amount of the garbage that's going into the recycling. There's a huge opportunity to reduce that fee. It's not just the cost of the garbage that we're paying for in there, but it's the sorting it out and then putting it in a truck and taking it over to the waste authority. It's all that extra handling of that material that's really creating this extra cost. And there's such an opportunity. Yes, there's going to be a cost in the front end to provide outreach and education and employ people to get that message out in a consistent manner to Humboldt County, but it is worth it in the long run. And we got to look at things that are not just, going to make a difference in a year or 2 years, but 5 years from now and 10 years from now, we'll be thanking ourselves that we did it. So that's my spiel. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in-house? Okay, we'll go to Zoom. Anyone in our Zoom audience wish to make comment? Okay, seeing that, thanks. We'll go ahead and come back to members of the board. Does anyone wish to make comment at the on the budget at this time?
So now that everything's like got the salary schedule and everything, now we can post for finance director. I'm really excited to get you finance director. Are you guys ready to go with that?
So the finance director was actually posted this week. So it is currently out for recruitment.
Director Katie, did you want to make comment? You look like you were... No, you're good. Okay, Director Wilson?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think your mic.
Okay.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I believe that we're doing a 3-week recruitment. But I would have to double check. But it's longer than 2 weeks. I know that it's either 3 weeks or a month. Yeah, and so we've spread the net for it pretty wide, not just locally, but I've reached out to SWANA, other solid waste associations. Reached out to not RCEA, California League of Cities as well. So we are trying to spread the net as wide as possible for it.
There's a lot of people competing for what we're asking.
I hope. I hope we've already had 4 applicants since we've posted it Monday this week. So far we've got a good turnout, and the end date is what did you say, Tony? June 1st.
Okay. That's all I have right this minute.
Go ahead.
Well, then I'd like to, I guess, make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-24 budget and adopt resolution 2401 for the collection of integrated waste management fees.
I second that.
Thank you. Director Matthews making the motion, Director Katie seconding it. Director Jones, did you want to add any comments to this?
No, I just want to thank staff for all the work that's done on this. I know budgets are gnarly. We're all kind of working on those on a city level, and now we're working on them on our boards, and I just appreciate all the work that's done by you and your staff.
Thank you. And I just had a couple of comments to make. And thank you, Linda Wise, for bringing up the contamination. It was in this packet, I think 25% of recycling is contaminated, which is a lot. So I definitely agree that there's a need just for more education around that. And I appreciate the education that's taken place. I know that, Recology has done some really great community outreach around that as well. But it's interesting to see how the cost plays in, to the HWMA fees. And then, though I appreciate the desire to use some of the money from the long-term planning, I'm hesitant just because I want to, I do know that the intention of that is, for a recycling center or for something kind of more focused. So, I know, and I'm imagining as that program's developing, it will come back to the board for discussion and input and feedback. So,
yeah, and additionally, we can take a look at the load that the newly unfrozen programs analyst position has, and see if that's an activity that we can wrap into their duties as well. So there are definitely options, and staff will take a look at all options, and we will bring back something to our board to get direction on.
Great. And then, Yeah, I do think that there are industry opportunities possibly for backhaul, though I know it's tricky, but I just, there's so much conversation now of these emerging industries, in the region. So I'm hopeful that if, maybe if some strategic conversations take place, we can start to, maybe find new opportunities there. And I'm correct too that the illegal disposal program will come back for input, so I don't need to give input on it specifically at this moment. But just I'm really glad that it's in the budget and that it's funded, and that it will be an opportunity for all communities to continue to address just the problem of dumping.
Yeah, that is correct. We will bring it back. I will take a look at it similar to what we did this year with the capital improvement plan, and we will take a top to bottom complete redo and generate it with input from member agency staff as well, and bring something back to the board.
Great, thank you. And with that, yes, Director Wilson.
Just a question. Do any of the haulers that haul for us use the curtain vans?
No, not any longer. Ever since the closure of the Eureka Recycling Center, that is the main way that we ship things on curtain vans. I would say 99.9% of our material shipped is in possum bellies or dumping trailers. The other 1% is a walking floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Why did they stop using the curtain vans? Because that's a good way to get a backhaul is through a curtain van.
The curtain vans are a good way to get a backhaul. They're not a good way to transport 23.5 tons of solid waste to the landfill. Yeah.
Because of the going on that road type thing.
Yeah, the curtains themselves are not really designed or meant for us loading solid waste into them. Okay. And then at the landfill, they mainly utilize tippers. They can utilize walking floor trailers because obviously you can walk the trash out itself. But the main way they get rid of solid waste there is they hook the trailer up to a tipper, and then it tips back and the material goes into the landfill.
Gotcha. All right, well, that's a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so just to touch on the backhaul, HWMA will continue to work with its contracted haulers and the landfill to do the best we can to find any backhauls that are available. Bendorf Trucking, the subcontractor for Dry Creek Landfill, is a local trucker. They have done this for a very, very long time. So we will continue to look for opportunities. But in the same token, to think about the amount of trucks per day that go to Dry Creek and what we're looking for as backhauls. So on average, the authority sends 10 possum belly trailers a day, 364 days a year. That's pretty much what we average out. That is an enormous amount of backhaul opportunities. But again, because of some of the failing industries in our local area, it is exponentially harder to get that much material that needs to come back to our jurisdiction than goes to the landfill as well. But we will continue to work with everybody that we can, and we'll continue to reach out to find them.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a challenging puzzle, I can imagine. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and bring it to the vote. Director Matthews.
Aye. Aye.
Director Jones.
Yes.
Director Katie.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Director Castellano votes yes, with Director Madrone absent. Motion passes. And did you capture who made the motion? Okay, perfect. Okay, and with that, that was our final item on the agenda, and so we will adjourn this meeting at 6:03. Have a good night, everyone.